Millionaire CEO kicked his pregnant girlfriend out. 2 years later, he saw her with his triplets and froze. Get out with that baby. Those were the last words Blake Madison said before Margot walked into the rain, pregnant and alone. But 2 years later, when he saw her again, she wasn't holding one baby. She was holding 3. And his entire world stopped. Hi, my lovely family. Welcome back to Mr. William Chronicles, where every story carries a life lesson worth remembering. If this is your first time here, we're so glad you're here. Show some love and hit that subscribe button and become part of this amazing community of story lovers. Let me speak a blessing over you. May you never choose silence when your voice could save someone you love. May you recognize poison disguised as protection, and may you build a strength so unshakable that no one's approval becomes your prison. And when the moment comes to stand for what matters most, may you rise not because it's easy, but because looking away would cost you everything you are. Rain hammered the penthouse windows that Thursday night. Margot stood trembling in Blake's living room, one hand pressed to her stomach where life was growing. 3 weeks of rehearsing this moment, and now the words came out raw and simple. I'm pregnant, Blake, with our child. Blake's face went blank. That cold, calculating look she'd seen him use in boardrooms, but never on her. You're certain? Yes. Blake, I know this isn't planned, but convenient timing. Victoria Madison's voice sliced through from the doorway. Blake's mother stood there, wine glass in hand, wearing that shark smile Margot had learned to fear. Right when my son's about to close the Westfield merger. How predictably opportunistic. Margot's throat closed. That's not, Blake, tell her. You know that's not true. But Blake just stood there, silent, studying her like she was a problem to solve instead of the woman he'd made love to 3 months ago. Do I? His voice was ice. How well do I really know you, Margot? The words hit like a physical blow. Victoria circled closer, predator sizing up prey. You think I don't see what you're doing? Sleeping with my son, getting yourself pregnant, securing your financial future. You're a gold-digging nobody who saw a meal ticket. Blake, please. Margot turned to him, tears streaming. Please, just get out with that baby. Victoria grabbed her arm, nails digging in. Take your lies and get out of our home. You're not trapping my son with this pathetic scheme. Blake, Margot whispered, giving him one last chance. One final moment to choose her, to remember who they'd been together in the darkness of his office, wrapped in each other, promising tomorrow. He turned to the window, said nothing. That silence destroyed her more than any accusation could. You heard him. Victoria shoved her toward the door. Leave. And don't come back expecting anything from us. You'll get nothing but embarrassment if you try. Margot stumbled out into the hallway. The elevator ride down felt endless. 53 floors of understanding she was completely alone. The doorman's pitying face as he hailed a cab. Rain soaking through her clothes within seconds. She climbed into the taxi, shaking from cold and shock, and the brutal realization that the man she'd trusted had chosen silence over her. Chosen his mother's poison over their baby. Where to? The driver asked. Margot gave her address, then pressed both hands to her stomach. Just you and me, she whispered to the tiny life inside her. We'll survive this. I promise we will. The cab pulled away from Madison Tower. Through the rain-streaked window, she watched the building disappear. Somewhere up there, Blake stood in his penthouse, surrounded by wealth and emptiness, having no idea what he'd just thrown away. Margot had no apartment savings, no plan. Just a baby growing inside her and the burning certainty that she'd never let anyone make her feel this small again. She'd walked into that building believing in love. She rode away understanding that some people choose comfort over courage every single time. Blake Madison was one of them. His mother had made sure of it. The rain kept falling, washing away the woman who'd believed a billionaire could love someone like her, leaving behind someone harder, someone angrier, someone who'd learned that survival meant trusting only yourself. 3 weeks later, Margot sat in a clinic waiting room, staring at ultrasound images she didn't understand. The technician had gone quiet, checking something twice, then 3 times. Is something wrong? Margot's voice cracked. The technician turned the screen toward her, smiling. Wrong? No. Just surprising. You're having triplets. The room tilted. Margot gripped the armrests, certain she'd heard wrong. What? 3 babies. See here, here, and here. 3 heartbeats. All healthy. Margot stared at the screen. 3 tiny shapes. 3 separate lives. Blake had told her to go have the baby alone. He had no idea she was carrying 3. Had no idea he'd abandoned not 1 child, but 3 daughters, who'd grow up never knowing their father chose his mother's approval over them. Are you okay? The technician asked. Margot looked at those 3 heartbeats on the screen. 3 reasons to survive. 3 reasons to become someone Blake Madison could never touch again. I'm okay, she said quietly. We're going to be okay. She left the clinic with printouts of the ultrasound, walked 3 blocks to her apartment, and sat on her bathroom floor crying until she couldn't cry anymore. Then she stood up, washed her face, and opened her laptop. If Blake thought she'd disappear quietly, he was wrong. If Victoria thought she'd broken her, she'd miscalculated. Margot Chun had survived worse than rich people's cruelty. She'd survived this too. She created a blog that night, called it Triple Threat. Her first post was simple. I'm 26, pregnant with triplets, and their father told me to handle it alone. So I am. This is me handling it. She hit publish and watched the cursor blink on the screen. Somewhere across town, Blake Madison slept peacefully in his penthouse, believing he'd solved a problem by choosing silence. He had no idea what was coming. Neither did she. But Margot was done being silent. Done being small. Done letting people like Blake and Victoria decide her worth. 3 babies were coming. 3 little girls who deserved a mother who fought instead of folded. And Margot was about to show the world what fighting looked like. Before we dive into what Margot did next, do me a favor. Subscribe to MR WILLIAM CHRONICLES and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from so I can connect with my dear family, because you're the fuel that keeps these stories coming. The job offer changed everything. Margot showed up Monday morning with her grandmother's medical bills folded in her wallet and hoped she didn't know she still had. Blake's assistant led her to a real office, not a temporary desk, but an actual space with her name on the door. Welcome to Madison Holdings, Blake said, leaning against her doorframe. Officially. She wanted to thank him. Instead, she just nodded. Words felt too big for what this meant. Stability. Insurance. A chance to stop juggling 3 income sources while her grandmother's condition worsened. Margot's first real conversation with Blake happened 3 weeks into the job. She was working late, hunched over spreadsheets in her office, when he knocked. Not his assistant. Him. Jacket off, tie loosened, exhaustion written across his face. You're still here. She glanced at the clock. 9:47 p.m. So are you. I own the building. What's your excuse? The Anderson account doesn't balance itself. Blake stepped inside, studying the chaos on her desk. You don't have to prove anything. You already saved this company millions. I'm not proving anything. I'm doing my job. Something shifted in his expression. Respect, maybe. Or recognition, like he saw himself in her. When's the last time you ate? Lunch. I think. That's not a meal schedule. That's survival mode. He pulled out his phone. There's a diner 2 blocks over. Best burgers in the city. My treat. Margot should have said no. Should have remembered he was her boss. That lines existed for reasons. But her stomach growled, and Blake smiled like he'd won something. They sat in a corner booth, grease-stained menus between them. Blake ordered without looking, clearly irregular. Margot got the same thing, too tired to decide. Why do you work so hard? He asked when the food arrived. My grandmother needs dialysis 3 times a week. The treatments aren't fully covered. Neither is her medication. So I work. That's it? Just financial. Isn't that enough? For most people. Blake dragged a fry through ketchup. But you're different. You could have taken my original offer and coasted. Instead, you're here at 10 p.m. perfecting reports nobody asked you to perfect. Margot met his eyes. Why do you work so hard? You're already rich. My father told me I'd never amount to anything before he left. Guess I'm still trying to prove him wrong. To him or to yourself? Blake went quiet. Then, maybe both. They talked until midnight. About absent fathers and dead parents. About building lives from rubble. About the exhaustion of always fighting, never resting. Because rest meant falling, and falling meant losing everything. When Blake drove her home, he didn't let her protest. Pulled up outside her building, a neighborhood nowhere near his world, and waited until she was safely inside. It became their routine. Late nights turned into dinners. Dinners turned into confessions. Work conversations turned into real ones. 6 weeks in, Blake kissed her in his office after everyone left. She pushed him away. We can't. You're my boss. This could destroy everything I've built here. I know. His forehead pressed against hers. I know all the reasons this is wrong. But tell me you don't feel this. Feeling it doesn't make it right. No. But it makes it real. Margot's hands fisted in his shirt, torn between pulling him closer and pushing him away. If this goes wrong. It won't. You can't promise that. No. But I can promise I'll try. That I'll protect what we're building. That you matter more than any policy or protocol. She kissed him then, desperate and terrified and so tired of being alone. They made love against his desk, the city glittering below them. Two people choosing connection over caution. Afterwards, wrapped in his shirt, Margot whispered, "Your mother's going to hate me." Blake pulled her closer. "My mother hates everyone. We'll deal with it together." But together was a promise neither of them knew how to keep. Not when Victoria Madison was involved. Dinner. Blake asked one Friday. To celebrate. My place. We can go over the quarterly projections. Margot should have said no. Should have kept that boundaries clear. But she was tired of pretending she didn't feel something when he looked at her like she mattered. Your place. I'll order in. Nothing fancy. His penthouse was 53 floors up. All glass and steel and cold perfection. The kind of space that cost more per month than most people earned yearly. Margot stood in the entryway feeling small until Blake handed her a beer. It's too much, right? He glanced around like seeing it through her eyes. My decorator chose everything. I just signed the checks. It's beautiful. It's empty. He said it quietly, but less empty when you're here. They worked on the couch, laptops open, papers spread across the coffee table. Blake ordered Thai food. They argued about expense reports. Laughed about the warehouse manager who'd called Margot a genius before realizing she was half his age. Then, the elevator dinged. Victoria Madison walked in like she owned the place. Which, Margot supposed she partially did. Designer dress, perfect hair, a smile that never touched her eyes. Blake, darling. Victoria kissed his cheek, then noticed Margot. Oh, you have company. Mom, this is Margot Chun. She's the consultant I told you about. Margot, my mother, Victoria. Margot stood, extending her hand. It's nice to meet you, Mrs. Madison. Victoria's handshake was brief, cold. Her eyes scanned Margot head to toe, cataloging everything. The off-brand clothes, the simple jewelry, the lack of pedigree written in every detail. How industrious, Victoria said, the word landing like an insult. Blake, the Ashford girl, called again. Her family's merger went through beautifully. You really should return her calls. I'm working, Mother. With her? Victoria settled onto a chair, making it clear she wasn't leaving. Well, don't let me interrupt. But she did interrupt. Every 5 minutes. Comments about eligible women Blake should meet. Mentions of charity events he should attend. Questions about the Westfield merger that had nothing to do with Margot, but everything to do with reminding her she didn't belong in this world. Margot excused herself early. Blake walked her to the elevator, apology written across his face. She means well. Does she? She's protective. Lost my father young. She built herself up from nothing. Made sure I had everything she didn't. Sometimes that makes her cautious about new people. The elevator doors opened. Margot stepped in. I understand. But she didn't. Not yet. The weekend invitations continued. Blake would text, reviewing the Anderson contract. Want to help? And Margot would go, telling herself it was just work, just professional collaboration. Victoria was always there. Margot tried everything. She researched Victoria's favorite tea, an expensive oolong from a specific shop in Chinatown. Brought it the next Saturday. Victoria let it sit untouched until it grew cold. How thoughtful, Victoria said, the words empty. Though I've moved on to green tea lately. Doctor's orders. Margot asked about Victoria's charity work with a Children's Hospital Foundation. Victoria answered in sentences so short they felt like doors slamming. It's going well. We raised adequate funds. The gala is in November. Then she turned to Blake. Speaking of the gala, the Whitmore daughter specifically asked if you'd be attending. Her father's firm just acquired. Mother. Blake's voice held warning. I'm simply keeping you informed, darling. Margot started dressing more carefully for these visits. Conservative blouses. Minimal makeup. Hair pulled back professionally. She spoke less, smiled more, tried to make herself smaller, more acceptable, less threatening. Nothing worked. One Saturday, she arrived early. Heard voices from the kitchen before they heard her. She's using you. Victoria's voice carried clearly. Girls like that see dollar signs, not people. She's calculating every move. Margot's not like that. They're all like that, Blake. I've seen dozens try to trap wealthy men with pregnancy scares and manufactured crises. Don't be naive. Margot stood frozen in the hallway, face burning. You don't know her. I know her type. Poor background, sick family member, desperate for security. Then suddenly she's indispensable at work, spending evenings here, worming her way into your life. It's textbook manipulation. That's enough. Is it? Or will it be enough when she's claiming you got her pregnant and demanding money? When she's threatening lawsuits and public embarrassment unless you pay her off? Margot's hand shook. She should have left. Should have walked out and never returned. But Blake found her standing there, saw her face, and understood she'd heard everything. Ignore her. His hand was gentle on her arm. She's protective. She'll warm up eventually. Will she? Give it time. But time made it worse. Victoria's comments grew sharper. Her interruptions more pointed. Every visit became a battlefield where Margot fought to prove she wasn't what Victoria accused her of being. You're here again? Victoria would say, fake surprise coding each word. Blake, darling, you're working this poor girl too hard. Surely she has a life outside this office. Or, Margot, that's a lovely dress. Nordstrom Rack? Such good deals there. Or, Blake needs someone who understands his world, the pressures of his position, the expectations of his social circle. Someone who can navigate those waters naturally. Each comment was a knife disguised as concern. Yet despite Victoria's poison dripping into every moment, something real grew between Blake and Margot. He told her about his father, a man who'd called him worthless before abandoning them. About building this empire to prove he wasn't the failure his father predicted. She told him about her parents dying when she was 12. About raising herself while caring for her grandmother. About learning that safety was a myth people with money believed in. We're both survivors, Blake said one late night after Victoria had finally left. City lights glittered below them. Just different wars. Your mother thinks I'm fighting to trap you. My mother thinks everyone's fighting for something. It's how she survived. Is she wrong? Blake turned to her. Are you fighting to trap me? I'm fighting to save my grandmother and keep my head above water. You were a job. Then you became. She trailed off, unsure how to finish. Something more. Something I didn't plan for. He kissed her then, soft and tentative, giving her room to pull away. She didn't. She leaned in, months of tension igniting. Two lonely people finding warmth in each other, despite the ice queen trying to freeze them apart. They made love on his couch that night, desperate and tender. Afterwards, tangled together in the darkness, Margot whispered, "This changes everything." "I know," Blake said, pulling her closer. "Tomorrow we'll figure it out." But tomorrow brought Victoria. And Victoria brought ultimatums Blake wasn't strong enough to refuse. 3 months of stolen moments. Secret smiles in meetings. Nights at his penthouse when Victoria traveled. They built something fragile and precious, always looking over their shoulders, always knowing his mother's shadow loomed. Then Margot's period didn't come. She took the first test in a gas station bathroom, hands shaking so badly she almost dropped it. 2 pink lines appeared, clear and undeniable. She took 4 more tests. Each one confirmed what her body already knew. She was pregnant with Blake Madison's baby, and Victoria Madison was going to destroy her for it. Margot stared at the pregnancy test for 20 minutes. 2 pink lines, clear, undeniable, mocking her from the bathroom counter. She took 4 more tests over 3 days. Each one confirmed what her body already screamed. She was carrying Blake Madison's child. Terror gripped her throat. They'd been careful, mostly. But careful wasn't foolproof. And now a life was growing inside her, tying her forever to a man whose mother despised her existence. For 3 weeks, Margot rehearsed the conversation, practiced in mirrors until her reflection looked tired of hearing it. Wrote scripts on napkins she burned in her sink. Imagined every possible reaction. Best case, Blake would be shocked but supportive. Realistic, he'd need time to process. Worst case, he'd think she trapped him on purpose. She scheduled Thursday evening. Texted Blake she needed to talk, important private. He suggested his penthouse at 7. Margot showed up at 6:58, hands trembling so violently she could barely press the elevator button. The ride up felt eternal. 53 floors of her heart hammering against her ribs. The doors opened. She stepped into the hallway. Voices drifted from inside the penthouse. Blake's and Victoria's. Margot's stomach dropped. Victoria wasn't supposed to be home. She'd left Tuesday for some charity event in Boston. Margot had triple-checked, Victoria's schedule before choosing tonight. She almost turned around, almost fled back to the elevator. But the baby growing inside her deserved better than a coward for a mother. Margot knocked. Blake answered, surprise flickering across his face. You're early. Mom came back unexpectedly. Give me 5 minutes, too. No. Margot's voice cracked. I can't wait anymore. Blake, I really need to talk to you. Victoria appeared behind him, wine glass in hand, wearing that predatory smile Margot had learned meant danger. How dramatic. Must be terribly important if you're interrupting his evening. It is. Margot forced the words past the lump in her throat. They moved to the living room. Margot perched on the couch edge, unable to sit back, unable to relax. Blake settled across from her, concern creasing his forehead. Victoria stayed standing, circling like a shark sensing blood. What's wrong? Blake asked. Margot's prepared speech evaporated. 3 weeks of rehearsal, and all she could manage was the raw truth. I'm pregnant. The baby is yours. Silence crashed through the room. Blake's face cycled through emotions too fast to name. Confusion. Realization. Then something cold settling over his features like frost. You're certain? Yes. 5 tests. Blake, I know this isn't planned, but we can. Convenient timing. Victoria's voice sliced clean through. She stepped closer, studying Margot like evidence in a crime scene. Right when Blake's about to close the Westfield merger. When his net worth is about to triple. How remarkably opportunistic. That's not. Margot turned to Blake desperately. Blake, tell her. You know that's not what this is. But Blake just sat there, watching her. That calculating boardroom expression she'd never seen directed at her before settling across his face. Do I? His voice was ice. How well do I actually know you, Margot? The question gutted her. What? We've been together 3 months. You knew about the Westfield deal. You knew what closing it would mean financially. And now suddenly you're pregnant. Suddenly, Margot's voice rose. Blake, we made love in your office 6 weeks ago. On your desk. Against the window. You said, her voice broke. You said we'd handle everything together. People say lots of things in bed. Victoria moved in, predator closing distance. They make promises they don't mean. Especially men, when women know exactly how to manipulate them. I'm not manipulating anyone. Tears streamed down Margot's face. "Blake, please. You know me. You know I wouldn't." "Do I?" Blake stood, pacing to the window, hands shoved in his pockets. "You needed this job desperately. Your grandmother's medical bills. You said it yourself. You were drowning financially. And I offered you stability, money, access to my world." "Are you serious right now?" Margot stood too, legs shaking. "You think I orchestrated this? That I planned to get pregnant to trap you?" "I think," Victoria interrupted, voice venomous, "that you saw an opportunity and took it. Girls like you always do. Poor background, sick family member, desperate circumstances. Then you sleep with a wealthy boss, get pregnant, and suddenly you're set for life." "Blake." Margot ignored Victoria, focused only on him. "Look at me. Please, just look at me and remember who I am. Remember us." Blake turned from the window. His eyes were distant. Stranger's eyes. "Maybe I don't know who you really are." The words shattered something fundamental in Margot's chest. "You don't mean that." "Get out." Victoria grabbed Margot's arm, nails digging in. "Take your schemes and your lies and get out of our home. You're not trapping my son with this pathetic performance." "Blake." Margot wrenched free from Victoria's grip, voice breaking. "Blake, please. Our baby needs you. I need you. Don't let her do this." He stood silhouetted against the city lights, silent, just watching her fall apart. That silence was louder than any accusation, more brutal than any words. "Blake." Margot whispered one final time. One last chance for him to choose her, to choose their child, to remember the man who'd held her in the darkness and promised they'd face everything together. "Nothing." "You heard him." Victoria moved toward her, forcing her back toward the door. "Leave now. And don't come back expecting anything from us. You'll get nothing but public humiliation if you try. My lawyers will bury you so deep." "I don't want your money." Margot's voice came out hollow. "I wanted him. I wanted us." She looked at Blake one final time. "I needed you. Our baby needed you. You chose silence. That's worse than cruelty. At least cruelty is honest." She turned and walked out. The hallway blurred through her tears. The elevator ride down felt like falling through space. 53 floors of understanding, she was completely, utterly alone. Rain hammered the pavement when she stepped outside. The doorman offered an umbrella. Margot walked past him into the downpour. Rain soaked through her clothes within seconds, mixing with tears she couldn't contain. Thunder rumbled overhead. Lightning split the sky. Margot pressed both hands to her stomach, to the tiny life growing there. "Just you and me," she whispered to her baby. "He chose his mother. He chose silence. But we'll survive this. I swear we will." She walked 12 blocks through the storm before finally hailing a cab, climbed and shaking from cold and shock and the brutal certainty that the man she trusted had chosen comfort over courage. Victoria had won. Blake had let her. And Margot Chen would never forgive either of them for it. Margot lost everything in 2 weeks. Madison Holdings terminated her contract. Restructuring, the HR email claimed. She knew better. Victoria's fingerprints were all over it. Her landlord gave notice. Rent was due. She had $847 in her checking account and 3 pregnancy tests in her bathroom trash. Then the ultrasound technician said something that made the room tilt. "You're having triplets." Margot stared at the screen. 3 tiny shapes. 3 heartbeats flickering like stars. "That's not possible." "It's rare, but definitely possible. See here, here, and here? 3 separate sacs. 3 babies. All healthy." The technician kept talking, something about high-risk pregnancy, extra monitoring, specialist care. Margot heard nothing, just white noise and the sound of her world collapsing. Blake had told her to handle it alone. He had no idea she was carrying 3 daughters who'd grow up fatherless because their dad chose his mother's approval over them. Margot walked out of the clinic in a daze, sat on a bus stop bench for an hour watching strangers pass. Normal people with normal problems. None of them carrying 3 babies with nowhere to go. Her phone buzzed. Eviction notice. 30 days. She laughed. Actually laughed until tears came. Because what else could she do? That night, Margot opened her laptop at the public library, created a blog, called it Triple Threat. Her first post was simple. I'm 26, pregnant with triplets, and their father told me to handle it alone. So I am. This is me handling it. She hit publish at 11:47 p.m. and watched the cursor blink. Somewhere across town, Blake Madison slept peacefully, believing he'd solved a problem by choosing silence. He had no idea what was coming. The blog got 17 views the first day. Margot posted again, raw, honest, angry. Detailed the morning sickness that left her vomiting in public restrooms. The job interviews where pregnancy became an unspoken disqualification. The doctor appointments she couldn't afford. Views climbed to 200, then 500. Someone shared her post in a single mother's group, then another group, then Twitter. By week 3, Triple Threat had 20,000 followers. Margot moved into a women's shelter in Queens. Shared a room with 3 other women, their stories bleeding into each other. Abuse, abandonment, addiction, survival. She wrote about all of it. The donated maternity clothes that didn't fit right. The prenatal vitamins the clinic gave her for free. The way strangers on the subway stared at her growing belly with pity. Brands started reaching out. Small ones first. Maternity clothing companies wanting her to review products. She said yes to everything that paid. Posted honest reviews. Her audience grew. 50,000 followers. Then 75,000. A marketing agency offered her consulting work, remote, flexible hours. She took it. Built websites from the shelter's common room computer, while other residents watched soap operas. Margot saved every penny. Moved from the shelter into a tiny studio in Brooklyn. 1 room. Shared bathroom down the hall. But it was hers. Her blog became something bigger. Women wrote to her daily. Other single mothers. Abuse survivors. Women who'd been abandoned, discarded, told they weren't enough. You're giving us permission to survive, one email said. Thank you for not pretending it's easy. Margot didn't pretend anything. She documented the terror. The doctor who told her bed rest was critical at 28 weeks. The premature labor scare that landed her in the hospital overnight with no one to call. She wrote from the hospital bed. 3 heartbeats on the monitor. 3 reasons to keep fighting. Their father chose comfort. I choose them. That post went viral. 100,000 shares in 24 hours. The media picked it up. Anonymous blogger's story of abandonment resonates with thousands. News outlets wanted interviews. She refused. Kept her identity hidden. This wasn't about fame. It was about survival. Blake's company appeared nowhere in her posts. She never named him. Never identified Madison Holdings. But people guessed. Whispered. Speculated online. At 32 weeks, Margot's blood pressure spiked. The doctor admitted her. Complete bed rest until delivery. These babies are coming early. She spent 6 weeks in the hospital. Wrote blog posts from her phone. Her audience sent care packages. Diapers. Baby clothes. Gift cards for groceries. Strangers funding her survival because one billionaire wouldn't. The triplets arrived at 37 weeks. Emergency C-section. Margot was unconscious when they cut her open, pulled out 3 tiny girls. She woke up to a nurse saying, "They're beautiful. Want to meet your daughters?" Laura came out first. 6 pounds, angry cry, Blake's eyes. Jean followed, quieter, watchful, his nose. Kitty arrived last. Smallest at 5 pounds 4 ounces, but fierce. She looked exactly like Margot. The nurse took a photo. Margot holding all 3, exhausted and tear-stained and more terrified than she'd ever been. She posted it with one line. We made it. All 4 of us. The photo broke the internet. 2 million views in 6 hours. News outlets everywhere ran the story. Triplet mom's journey ends in triumph. Margot stared at her phone, at the numbers climbing, at the comments flooding in. Strangers celebrating her survival. Women thanking her for showing them strength looked like messy hospital hair and stretch marks, and 3 babies you'd fight the world for. Blake Madison had no idea his daughters existed, had no idea the woman he destroyed had rebuilt herself into someone he couldn't touch. But he was about to find out, because someone had figured out who the father was, and they were ready to tell the world. If you're still watching and feeling something right now, tap that like button. Margot earned this moment. Show the story some love with a like, and comment, "Stay strong, Margot," if you're rooting for her and those 3 girls. And subscribe to the Mr. William Chronicles. Trust me, the redemption gets even more intense. The article appeared on a Tuesday morning. Anonymous. Detailed. Devastating. Billionaire CEO abandons pregnant employee. The Blake Madison story. It named him, named his company, outlined everything. The relationship, the pregnancy, the rejection. Victoria's cruelty. His silence. The triplets born while he pretended they didn't exist. Blake's phone exploded. Calls from board members, investors, PR teams. His assistant knocked on his office door every 5 minutes with crisis updates. Stock dropped 11% in the first hour. 3 major clients pulled their contracts. Protesters are gathering outside the building. Blake sat frozen behind his desk, reading the article for the 5th time. Each word landed like a fist. Not because it was false, because every single sentence was true. He told Margot to handle it alone, and she had. While he convinced himself he'd made the logical choice, she'd been losing everything. His mother stormed into his office without knocking. "This is a disaster. We need to release a statement. Deny everything. Claim she's lying for attention." "She's not lying." Blake's voice came out hollow. "Excuse me." "Every word is true, Mother. I got her pregnant. You told me she was a gold digger. I believed you, and I threw her out." Victoria's face went rigid. "You're not seriously admitting this publicly?" "I'm not admitting anything publicly, but I'm done pretending it didn't happen." "Blake, listen to me. Get out." "What?" "Get out of my office. Now." Victoria left, heels clicking sharp against marble. Blake stared at his computer screen, at the article still open, at the truth he'd spent months avoiding. Then he saw the video. Someone had shared it, a clip from Margot's blog. Her sitting in a tiny apartment, holding 3 babies, singing softly, some lullaby he didn't recognize. The camera was shaky, the lighting bad, but he could see their faces clearly. 3 little girls, and every single one had his eyes, his nose, his mouth on the smallest one. Blake's chest seized. He couldn't breathe, couldn't process what he was seeing. These were his daughters, his children, and he'd never even known their names. He watched the video again and again, 17 times in total, counting the replays when his hand moved automatically to restart it. The way Margot looked at them, exhausted but fierce. The way the middle baby grabbed her finger. The way the smallest one yawned, mouth opening wide, looking exactly like Blake did in his childhood photos. His phone rang. Victoria. He declined the call. She called 4 more times. Texted, "Don't do anything stupid. We can fix this if you listen to me." Blake blocked her number. The next morning, he called his therapist. First appointment in 3 years. Then he called his lawyer, not the corporate one Victoria recommended, a different one. Independent. "I need to know my options. I have 3 daughters. I abandoned their mother when she told me she was pregnant. I want to fix this. Fix it how? However I can. Whatever it takes." The lawyer was blunt. After public abandonment? After the article? You can't just show up demanding parental rights. You'll look opportunistic, like you only care because the story went viral. "I don't care how I look. I care about making this right." Then you need to change. Actually change. Not performative PR stunts. Real transformation. And even then, she might never forgive you. Blake started volunteering at a community center in Brooklyn. Not the high-profile charity galas Victoria dragged him to. Real work. Serving meals. Tutoring kids. Showing up. No press releases. No photographers. Just him trying to become someone who deserved a second chance. 6 weeks later, he learned Margot was being honored at a charity gala. Local women's organization recognizing her advocacy work for single mothers. Blake bought a ticket, sat in the back row, wore a baseball cap, and kept his head down. The event started at 7. Margot didn't appear until 8:30. When she walked on stage, Blake's breath caught. She looked different, stronger, hair longer, confidence radiating from her that hadn't been there before. She wore a simple black dress and spoke without notes. 2 years ago, I had nothing. No job, no home, no support, just 3 babies depending on me, and absolute certainty I'd find a way. Because that's what mothers do. We survive. We adapt. We protect. The audience applauded. Blake's hands stayed frozen in his lap. People ask how I did it. The truth? I didn't do it alone. This community, you, supported me when the person who should have didn't. You funded my survival. You celebrated my strength. You reminded me I wasn't disposable. Blake's eyes burned. So this award isn't mine. It's ours. Every woman who's been abandoned. Every mother who's been told she's not enough. Every person who survived something they shouldn't have had to survive. We're still here, and we're not going anywhere. The room erupted. Standing ovation. Blake stood too, clapping until his palm stung. Then Margot looked toward the back. Her eyes found his. Locked on. She froze mid-wave. Color drained from her face. Blake's heart hammered. He should leave. Should disappear before making this worse. But his legs wouldn't move. Security approached Margot, speaking quietly. She shook her head, said something Blake couldn't hear. Then she stepped off the stage. Walked straight toward him through the crowd. People parted. Whispered. Phones appeared, recording. Margot stopped 3 feet away. You have some nerve showing up here. I know. Blake's voice cracked. I know I have no right. But I needed to see. He couldn't finish. See what? That I survived without you? That our daughters are thriving despite you. Our daughters. Blake's eyes flooded. Margot, I didn't know about. I knew you were pregnant, but I didn't know there were 3. I didn't know they. He pulled out his phone with shaking hands. I saw the video. And they have my eyes. My face. And I've spent every day for 6 weeks trying to become someone who deserves to even be in the same room as them. You think 6 weeks of volunteering erases 2 years of abandonment? No. God, no. I know it doesn't. But I'm trying. I'm in therapy. I cut my mother off. I'm trying to change into someone who... Your mother. Margot's expression hardened. Where is she now? I don't know. We haven't spoken since the article dropped. As if summoned, Victoria appeared in the doorway. Saw Blake. Saw Margot. Her face contorted with rage. She marched over, heels clicking ominously. Blake, we're leaving. Now. No. This spectacle is making everything worse. Your losses are mounting. You need to find someone appropriate, someone with proper standing. I said no. Blake's voice cut through the room. I'm done listening to you. Done letting you control my life. Done choosing your approval over doing what's right. Victoria's eyes narrowed. You're throwing everything away for her? For some nobody who trapped you. She didn't trap me. You poisoned me. You made me believe loving someone outside your approved circle was weakness. And I was too much of a coward to fight you. Blake turned to Margot. I'm not that coward anymore. The entire ballroom went silent. Victoria's face flushed crimson. You're choosing her over your own mother? Over everything I built for you. You didn't build anything for me. You built a cage and called it protection. Blake's voice stayed steady. I'm done living in it. If you walk away from me now, you walk away from everything. The company connections. The social standing. The life I sacrificed everything to give you. Then I walk away. Victoria stepped closer, voice dropping to a venomous whisper. You'll regret this. When she takes you for everything you're worth. When those children turn out to be someone else's. Stop. Blake's hand shot up. Those are my daughters. I see myself in their faces. And even if they weren't, even if Margot had lied about everything, which she didn't, I'd still choose differently. Because what you taught me to do was cruel. And I'm done being cruel. You're making the biggest mistake of your life. No. The biggest mistake was listening to you 2 years ago. Letting you convince me Margot was using me. Choosing your paranoia over the woman I loved. Blake's voice broke. I threw away everything that mattered because you taught me love was weakness. You were wrong. Victoria's mouth opened, closed. For the first time in Blake's life, his mother had nothing to say. Leave Margot alone, Blake continued. Leave my daughters alone. If you can't accept them, then we're done. Completely. No company benefits. No Sunday dinners. No access to my life whatsoever. You choose them or me. Because I've already chosen. Victoria's hands trembled. You'll come crawling back. When reality hits. When you realize what you've given up. Maybe. But at least I'll be able to look at myself in the mirror. Victoria turned on her heel and walked out. The crowd parted for her like she was contaminated. The ballroom door slammed shut behind her. Blake exhaled shakily, then turned to Margot. She stood frozen, eyes wide, something unreadable on her face. I don't expect forgiveness, Blake said quietly. I don't expect anything. But I need you to know I'm sorry. For everything. For not defending you. For choosing silence when you needed my voice. For believing the worst instead of trusting what we had. His voice cracked. I destroyed the best thing that ever happened to me because I was terrified of disappointing a woman who was never going to be satisfied anyway. Margot's eyes glistened. You think one speech fixes 2 years? No. God, no. I know it doesn't. But I'm asking for a chance. Not for me, for them. Our daughters deserve a father who shows up, who fights for them, who chooses them every single time. Blake pulled out his phone with shaking hands. I've watched this video 200 times. Them sleeping in your arms. And I see myself in every face. Laura has my eyes. Jean has my nose. Kitty has my... His voice broke completely. I missed everything. Their births. Their first smiles. 2 years of their lives because I was too weak to stand up to my mother. Their names. Margot's voice came out choked. You learned their names. I learned everything I could. I know Laura loves music. Jean loves books. Kitty's the troublemaker. Blake wiped his eyes roughly. I know it's not enough. Knowing facts doesn't make me their father. But I want to be. I want to earn that right. However long it takes. Margot looked away, jaw tight. You broke me, Blake. That night in the rain, I walked away from your penthouse believing I was worthless. That I'd imagined everything between us. That love was just another lie rich people told. I know. Do you? Do you understand what it's like to carry 3 babies alone? To give birth terrified? To spend every day wondering if you'll have enough money for diapers? Margot's voice rose. I built a life from nothing. Without you. Without your money. Without anyone. And now you show up because the internet made you look bad. That's not why I'm here. Then why? Why now? Because I saw their faces and realized I'm the villain in my daughter's story. The father who abandoned them. And I can't change the past, but I can change what happens next. Blake's hands clenched. I don't want their first memory of me to be an apology for not being there. I want to be there. Starting now. However you'll let me. What if I don't let you? What if I decide you don't deserve access to them? Then I respect that. And I spend the rest of my life proving I've changed. Paying child support. Setting up college funds. Showing up at every school play and birthday party you'll allow, even if I have to watch from the parking lot. Blake's voice shook. I'm not trying to take anything from you. You gave them everything. I'm just asking to give them something too. Margot was crying now, tears streaming down her face. I wanted you so badly that night. I needed you to fight for us. For me. And you just stood there. I know. And I'll regret that silence every day for the rest of my life. Your mother called me a gold digger. Said I was trash. And you let her. I know. She tried to destroy me. I know. And I helped her do it. Blake stepped closer, slowly, like approaching something fragile. Margot, I can't undo it. I can't give you back those 2 years. but I can show up now. I can be the father our daughters deserve. If you give me one chance. Just one. Margot stared at him for a long moment. The ballroom was still silent, everyone watching, phones recording. One chance, she finally whispered. Not for you. For them. Because they ask about their daddy sometimes, and I'm tired of having no answer. Blake's knees nearly buckled. Thank you. God, Margot, thank you. But you don't get to walk back into our lives and play hero. You earn every moment. Every visit is on my terms. You prove you've changed, not with words, but with actions. Consistently. For however long it takes. Anything. I'll do anything. And if you hurt them, if you disappoint them even once, you're gone. Forever. I won't let them experience the pain you put me through. I understand. Margot wiped her eyes. They're at my apartment. With a babysitter. If you want to meet them, we leave now. But Blake, her voice hardened. If you walk through that door, you're committing. No changing your mind. No deciding fatherhood is too hard. You're all in, or you don't walk through it all. I'm all in. They left together. The crowd parted. Cameras flashed. Someone shouted questions. Blake ignored all of it, focused only on Margot leading him toward the exit. The drive to Brooklyn was silent. Margot stared out the window. Blake gripped the steering wheel, terrified and hopeful, and so grateful he could barely breathe. They pulled up to a small apartment building. Margot unlocked the door to a modest one-bedroom. Inside, a babysitter sat on the couch watching 3 toddlers play with blocks. 3 little girls. 2 years old. Beautiful and perfect and his. They looked up when Margot entered. The biggest one, Laura, ran over. Mama. Hi, baby. Margot scooped her up. Mama's home. Jean followed, quieter, watching Blake with curious eyes. Kitty stayed on the floor, stacking blocks, completely focused. Blake stood frozen in the doorway, overwhelmed. Laura noticed him first. Who's that? Margot's jaw tightened. She looked at Blake, then back at Laura. This is Blake. He's your daddy. Blake's eyes flooded instantly. Laura studied him seriously. Why you crying? Because I'm happy, Blake managed. So happy to finally meet you. Jean approached slowly, head tilted. You're our daddy? Yeah, I am. If that's okay with you. Kitty abandoned her blocks and waddled over. She stared up at Blake with his exact eyes, then reached up with both arms. Up. Blake looked at Margot, silently asking permission. She nodded once. He lifted Kitty carefully, like she might break. She grabbed his face with both hands, studying him intently. Then she smiled, a grin that was pure mischief, and wiped his tears away. Don't cry, Daddy. Blake broke. Completely. Held his daughter and sobbed into her tiny shoulder, while Laura patted his leg, and Jean wrapped her arms around his knees. Margot watched from across the room, arms crossed, expression unreadable. But her eyes were wet. This doesn't fix anything, she said quietly. You've got years of proving ahead of you. I know. They deserve consistency. Not a father who shows up when it's convenient. I'll be here. Every day you'll allow. I promise. Promises are easy. Actions matter. Then watch my actions. 2 years passed in careful increments. Blake showed up every Tuesday and Thursday evening. Helped with baths. Read bedtime stories. Sat through tantrums and celebrated milestones. He never missed a day. Not once. He set up college funds. Paid child support without being asked. Attended every doctor's appointment Margot allowed. Slowly, painfully, he earned back trust he'd shattered. Margot stayed guarded, protective. But she watched him become the father their daughters deserved. And sometimes, just sometimes, when he made them laugh or wiped their tears or sang them to sleep, she remembered why she'd loved him in the first place. Thank you, Blake said one night after putting the girls to bed, for giving me this chance. I know I didn't deserve it. You didn't, Margot agreed. But they deserved a father who showed up. So far you have. I'm not going anywhere. Prove it. Not with words. Keep showing up. I will. Every day. For the rest of my life. Margot looked at him, really looked at him, and saw someone different than the man who'd chosen silence. Not perfect, not forgiven, but trying. Consistently, genuinely. Maybe that was enough. Not for reconciliation. Not yet. But for hope. For the possibility that people could change, could earn redemption through relentless, humble action. Blake Madison had been the villain in her story. Now he was trying to be the father their daughters needed. And Margot would watch, guard up but heart cautiously open, to see if this time, finally, he'd choose them over everything else. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like. It really helps the channel grow. And drop a comment telling us where you're watching from and your favorite moment in the story. And subscribe to Mr. William Chronicles so you don't miss stories like this. We tell stories about people who turned their pain into power, and trust me, there are more coming. See you in the next one.